Okay, today, other than doing a book check here, we have to talk about the actual trig functions. We're going to do a couple things. If you need to go grab a calculator or take one out of your bag, do that right now. If you need to go to the back, I had 10 when you guys walked in here, so I should have 10 when you guys walk out. But if you need to borrow one, go get one. Goal today, we're going to do a couple examples of doing the trig functions. The question I had yesterday throughout the day, it was every single period, is, Ward, how do you know which one to pick? That's a really great question. And it just depends on what the question is asking for, what they provide to you right away. So we'll try to do a couple examples today where I throw some numbers in different places, and then you try to figure out which one you should use. Now the acronym that we use for this to help us remember is called Sohcahtoa. This little acronym is what I use to figure it out. The actual capital letters are your trig functions, and then the lowercase letters are the labels you would put on your triangle where the numbers are given to you. Okay, and that will hopefully help you to figure it out. Now we'll try to do, I have about 3 or 4 examples that I have today that I'd like to go through. There is a brand new type of problem today where the new problem is where we're going to find an angle. We're going to find the measure of an angle. Thank you. Angle. So this is our brand new thing today. This one will require a calculator. So you're going to require a calculator. And we have to know how to use it. So hopefully you can kind of figure that out now. This is one type of problem that we're going to find an angle. Cell phone may not work on this case. Like, if I know a lot of people do it at home, they have really nice cell phones. Unless you download a specific app, from the App Store that's a calculator app, I don't know if the default calculator on your phone can do this. Even though you turned it sideways, I don't think it can. So we're going to look at that today. That'll be a brand new thing today, which is not difficult, but you got to know like what you're doing, how to set it up, how to type it in, all that good stuff. Especially like for some of those that don't have a calculator like mine. I don't think anyone here, so Jade will have to worry about yours, so I'll kind of show you how to use yours. Looks like everyone else has basically the same as mine. Okay, good. So everyone else should be fine. But yeah, so Jade, when I start going through today, I'll try to walk you through how to do it on yours. Okay. All right. But that's kind of our goal today. I have about 3 to 4 examples picked out that I want to go through, and hopefully these will seem pretty easy today. But 3 or 4 examples, and then we are going to get to homework, which will be due later this week. Now, quick reminder: what I said earlier was, or what I said yesterday. I know that there's potential that some of you want to go down and watch state wrestling. That's fine. Just make sure that if you are going down to watch state wrestling, you have everything turned in for me. I will not sign off unless you have all my late work turned in. So keep that in mind. It'll be an unexcused absence, and then you're serving detention times for me. So so don't do that. So make sure you're getting all late work turned in. Try to get that wrapped up before the end of the week and stuff. And if you need an email like Taylor here, I'll try to send you an email that will have those listed and where to find them on the website and stuff. So. Okay, questions, comments? Okay, now we had homework to do yesterday. That was page 551. If you have not turned that in, get that wrapped up. I'm going to be putting those in probably as you guys are sitting here today. So, all right. But let's go through a couple examples here of the first type of problem that I want to talk through. All right. This is one of the first problems that they have in the actual homework, where they give you a triangle and then they actually have some numbers like filled in. In fact, I'm just going to pull one of the problems out of the book. This actually could potentially be one of your homework problems because I don't want to make up any. I actually want to use the numbers that are in your book so you get kind of used to this. Let's see. 12, 35, 37. Right. 12, 35, and 37. All right. So now, if you notice on this particular problem, they have everything filled in. So they have all the walls, they just don't have angles, which is fine. But the question, what it asks for in the questions, and this will be my first out of the 3 or 4 examples we're going to do, they ask for this. Find the sine of A. Like that's maybe question number 1. They just say find the sine of A. That's all it says. So that means what they want is they want the fraction that you'd put after it. That's what they want. They don't want you to type it in your calculator. They don't need you to do anything like that. What they want you to do is find angle A, because again, when you write the word sine, they always want an angle after it. So angle A is the angle we're looking at. And then after that, you have to know what the fraction that goes behind it. So in Sohcahtoa, this is the little acronym we use to remember that formula for sine. We use this one, right? This is the sine, because it starts with the S, right? What's the fraction that we put after sine? What do these letters mean?
Opposite wall, hypotenuse.
Yeah, opposite wall and hypotenuse. The opposite goes on the top, the H goes on the bottom. So what I'm looking for in this picture is once you find angle A, we're going to put the opposite side to angle A on the top, and you're going to put the hypotenuse on the bottom. That's what they want. They actually want you to write the fraction down. They don't want you to type in your calculator. You won't need to do that. But you've got to know what angle you're looking at. So that's why they tell you angle A. So here's angle A, this angle that's in question, so this would be my theta, right? Where's the opposite wall?
35. Right?
Yeah, it's the one across from it. So whatever angle they pick, if they pick B, which I'll do here in a minute, you have to find, the opposite wall or whatever they're asking for in this one. But I'm asking for sine. So the opposite wall, which is 35, and the hypotenuse, which is 37. That's the answer they want you to write down. Like, I just need the fraction, you move to the next problem. Does that make sense what you're doing? But you had to know like what trig function they were giving you. So on problem 1 they say sine of A, so you know you have to use the sine formula, which is opposite over hypotenuse. And again, this little acronym helped me with that. Okay, let's do another one, just so you can get familiar with it. So I want to do a couple of these at least. So number 2, let's say they wanted, so number 2, let's say they want the tangent of angle B. So tangent of B. So you got to be thinking in your head, what does tangent mean? Well, tangent is TOA, okay? And what's the fraction that you'd put after tangent? What's TOA mean?
Opposite and adjacent.
Opposite and adjacent, right? That's what the O and A stand for in that formula, so opposite over adjacent. Remember, the second letter goes on the top, third letter goes on the bottom. So for tangent, tangent of an angle, whatever that angle is, it's opposite of that angle over the adjacent, right? That's the formula that we've been using, since yesterday on how tangent works. So you have to find the angle that's in question. So they look like they're talking about angle, angle B. So this is the question that this is the angle that they're using. What's the opposite wall to angle B?
12.
12. So there's your 12. So that goes on the top. That's the opposite wall to angle B. And what's the adjacent wall to angle B?
35.
35. And that number goes on the bottom. That's opposite over adjacent. They just want the fraction. You don't need to do anything else with it. Okay, questions on what they want for your answers. They just want those fractions. I'm writing down the formula so you can see where I'm coming up with it. But remember, opposite means across the picture. The adjacent's always the one next to the angle, and then the hypotenuse never really changes. So if you're using hypotenuse, it should be the 37, so it's the biggest wall. So you should never get that wrong. All right, questions on those two. Again, they could ask for cosine as well, and you'd use adjacent hypotenuse, depending on which one they ask for. Okay, any questions about how the first problems are going to work?
Why isn't 37 the adjacent?
It's the hypotenuse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so hypotenuse never really changes. The adjacent can never be the hypotenuse wall. The hypotenuse is H, so that'll always be the same. The opposite and adjacent could switch, but it'll never be the hypotenuse. So, okay. Good question. Any other questions? That was good though. All right. So that was the first ones. I think I assigned like 6 of those where you just have to give me the simple fraction. That's all I want. You don't even have to type anything in your calculator for the first 6. They just give you a picture like that, and they ask a series of questions about it. Then after you're done with that one, then I think the next couple problems, they say find x for the following picture. So now it's kind of a free-for-all. So on this next one, so there's going to be something given to you, and there's going to be an x on the picture. So I'll kind of make one of those here in a second. But does anyone still need that problem? Okay, perfect. Let me get rid of it. All right, so let's go to the next one here. So next one, they're going to ask you to find an x that's on the picture. So it's kind of like the last problems that we were doing. Let me just grab one from the book so I'm not making up anything weird and difficult. Okay. All right. Okay, so this is the type of problem that you're going to have. I think that these are the problems, I think it's like 8 through 10-ish. It's in that ballpark in the book. They give you a triangle. It has to be a right triangle, and they can draw it any which way. If you need to rotate it, whatever, you guys can turn your books. They're going to ask you to find x. Okay, so to find x, that's all it says, just find x. It'll be a decimal. I think they even say like round it to 2 decimal places, so go to the hundredths position, 2 decimal places if necessary. Now these are the problems where it's a free-for-all. It does matter which one of the trig functions you pick. You have to pick the correct one. So when I start these problems, I would always start labeling the picture from where your angle sits. They usually give you the angle. Okay, so the next problems I do, we'll try to find our angle. So this is my theta, so this is the angle. So let's label the walls. So what is this wall called? Yeah, say it.
Adjacent.
That's the adjacent wall. How we know that? Adjacent always means next to. So the wall right next to the angle they provided you. So that's the adjacent wall. And what is this wall called?
Hypotenuse.
The hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse should never change. You should recognize the hypotenuse like instantly. It's always the biggest wall. It's the one wall that doesn't touch. So it looks like I'm using adjacent and hypotenuse. So which one of these 3 uses adjacent and hypotenuse? One of them uses it. Cosine. That one. This is the one that it uses adjacent and hypotenuse. How I know that? It has an A and an H in the Sohcahtoa. So that's the one you're narrowing it down to. Because when I labeled it, by just getting that first word adjacent, I knew it had to be one of these 2. And then knowing that I was using the hypotenuse narrowed it down to that one. Because it uses A and H. That's how I know. That's why I always label my picture. I'm not even joking. I label my pictures when I do it, so I know exactly which trig function to pick. Because it's going to be one of the 3. So it looks like on this particular problem I'm using cosine. So this is the ca formula, right? This is adjacent hypotenuse. So cosine of my angle is the adjacent over hypotenuse. So the adjacent wall is x over the hypotenuse because the third letter goes on the bottom. So that's my 13. Again, I'm just plugging the numbers that my picture had into the correct spots. You have to put them in the right spots. You got to know where the angle goes, where the adjacent, where the hypotenuse goes. And at this point now, all we need to do is solve. And this is where you're going to need a calculator. So, but how do I get x by itself?
13 over multiply.
Yeah. Since the x isn't on the bottom, we don't do that little switcheroo thing like we did yesterday. Since there's a number on the bottom, you can just multiply it over like we just said. So 13 times the cosine of 47. So this is the part where you need to type it in the calculator. So everyone should be able to just type it exactly how you see it here. You just type in 13 cosine 47, hit enter, boom, it spits it out. Jade, you're going to have to type it in backwards. So you're going to have to type in the 47 first, hit the cosine button, so it'll give you a crazy decimal on your screen, and then take it times 13, because you have to go backwards on yours. Okay, but I need to know what that number is.
8.86.
8.86. Okay, let's see, is everyone getting 8.86 in their calculator? Did anyone not get it or not comfortable with how to type that in? Everyone's good though? So you just type in 13 cosine 47, enter, boom, spits out an answer. Now, again, you had to know which trig function to pick. Because if you would have picked the wrong trig function, it wouldn't give you the correct answer. Because whatever one you pick will actually give you a unique answer. So you have to label the picture to know which one to pick. That's why I throw the words opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse where I need to put them. Okay, here's my question to you. Do you want to do another one of those, or should we just go to the next type? Next. Okay. If you want another example later, I'll do it at the very end. But let's go to the next type. So the next one's now, I'm going to go back to that original problem that I put up on the board. Put this one back up on the board. This is one of the last types of problems you're going to have. So I think, what was this? Was it 12, 35, 37? I don't know what the numbers were. I think that was it. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it? Okay. We'll go with it. Alright, so this is A, B, and C. A, B, and C. Okay. Now, I know this is weird. I threw the first picture back up there again. This is a later problem. I think it's like 13 through 16 in that range of problems. They ask you to find a specific angle, which is something we've never done before. It's not like this where you find a wall, and we've been talking about this last like 3 days in here. 2 days, I should say. But that one, we've never done those problems. You do need a calculator, and I'll show you how to type it in. But they're going to ask you to find a specific angle, but not angle C. Because what's angle C? 90. You already know that one, so that one's fine. But they'll ask you to find one of the other ones. So this is one, it's kind of like this problem, that's why I left this up here, where it's kind of a free-for-all, but you have to find the specific angle that they're looking for. Okay, so I'll give you guys kind of option. You want to find A or B?
B.
B. Okay, that's the first one I heard, so B. Okay, so we're going to find angle B. Maybe that's what the question says. Maybe question number 13 says, find angle B. Find the measure of angle B. Okay, and it'll maybe say 2 decimal places, the hundredths position. Okay, so this, we are still using the trig functions. And the trig functions will help us find angles. I know that's weird because I said that earlier when we first started this stuff. We just never did it before. So I want to show you how this works. Okay, but it's based on this one, where you kind of have to label the walls and then you can figure out which trig function to pick. Now this one has every wall, so it's kind of nice that we can kind of label it. So let's do that in the picture right now. So from angle B, this is the angle we're going to find. So this is going to be my angle, let's call it theta, let's say. Where is the opposite?
35.
12.
Which one?
Oh, from B, sorry.
Okay, yeah. From B, this would be the opposite wall. Okay. And then adjacent?
35.
35 is the adjacent wall. And this would be the hypotenuse. So there's your labels so far. Okay, I'll just abbreviate. There we go. Okay, so we've labeled opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So they're all labeled. So it's kind of a free-for-all. You can kind of pick whatever trig function you want, but we need to find angle B. So the good news is it doesn't matter which one you pick up here. You can actually pick any of them because I have every wall. So it's kind of nice. If I only had select walls, then I'd have to pick that specific trig function. But since I have all three, I can find any trig function I want. So, in fact, pick any of the three that you want. Pick any one of those three. Toa? Okay, let's pick Toa. Okay, so, again, you can pick any three because I have every wall. So, if we're picking Toa, Toa means tangent of an angle is opposite over adjacent. Okay, that's what Toa means. So, it looks like on this particular picture, since we picked Toa, we're just using those numbers, the opposite and the adjacent, for my angle. And again, I label the picture depending on where my angle's at. So B is at the top, so the opposite's across from it. So so I'm going to plug in my numbers. So I'm going to find the tangent of angle B is equal to the opposite wall. What's the opposite wall? 12 over the adjacent wall, which is 35. Again, opposite over adjacent. So I plug in my numbers. When you do your trig function, you got to make sure whatever one you pick, and you have your formula set up, the two numbers have to be in the fraction. You can't have a variable over here, so they have to have both numbers. I'm finding angle B. Here's how you do it. And Jade, you'll be a little bit different on this one, so I'll explain how to do it on yours. We need to get angle B by itself. Right now there's a tangent written out front. They have a tangent in front of angle B. Here's how you do it. You're basically taking the inverse tangent to the other side. It's an inverse operation, right? You do the opposite to the other side. On your calculator, how you do an inverse? There's this little button, and you'll see it. When you look at the tangent key on your calculator, and you look above it, there's this little tangent -1 thing. Okay, does everyone see that? It's above the tangent button on your calculator. That little tangent -1 or cosine -1 or sine -1, that's called an inverse trig function. It's called an arc tangent or an arc sine. That's the other word, so it's called an inverse tangent, or in college terms they call it an arc tangent. But again, it looks like a little tangent with a -1, and you can do that for any of the other trig functions as well. What that button is used for, it's used to find angles. That's the only thing it's used for. So when you type that, to get to that to show up on your screen, especially on my calculators, hit the little second key. So you hit the little shift key, the little second key, it's that weird little color key up in the upper corner. Then you hit the tangent button. Because when you hit that, it'll show this on the screen, and it'll probably put a parenthesis behind it, correct? Then just type in the fraction, 12 over 35. And close the parenthesis. You do have to close the parenthesis, make sure you're doing that. And when you hit enter, it should give you an angle, which it should be something small. That's what I'm betting on. So you're gonna hit the shift or second tangent, so it should give you the tangent little -1 on your screen. 12 divided by 35, close the parenthesis after that. What do we get?
18.92.
18.92, and that's your angle. That's 18.92 degrees, about 19 degrees. But again, 2 decimal places. Is that what everyone's getting? Now, Jade, for yours, you need to type in the 12 divided by 35 first. So type 12 divided by 35, hit enter, it gives you a weird decimal on your screen, right? Then hit the little second tangent key. Works? Because you have to figure out your like decimal first, and then you can take the inverse tangent of it. So you're going kind of backwards.
So
Okay.
what's the difference between finding this and then finding what we were doing earlier? Like sin A equals 35 over
Well,
37.
those earlier were just like, when they said like on problem number 1, they said find sine of A or cosine of B. They're just having the fraction. That's all they wanted. They just wanted what was the fraction that represents sine of A. This problem, it wants you to find the actual angle. So that's the difference. We're not just going to set up fractions. I actually want to know what the angle is. Yeah, so that's the main difference. You could actually have done those problems and go and find angles using those fractions. Yep. Okay, questions with this. Again, any trig function actually would have worked here because we had every wall, just to prove my point, we had every wall here. You could have picked any trig function you wanted. So let's say, and this was hypotenuse by the way. If you would have picked, let's say sine instead, the sine of angle B, no, you would have used the opposite, which is 12 over the hypotenuse, right? That's what sine stands for in Sohcahtoa. Its sine of an angle is opposite over height. And you'd set it up like this, that's the opposite over hypotenuse for that angle B, and then you take the inverse sine button. So you take the arc sine of 12 divided by 37, and you would have got the 18.92 again. It would give you the same answer because you could have picked any trig function you want. You just had to set up the right fraction behind it. You just had to know what it stood for, which is kind of cool. So, and you could type that in, you can see that it does give you the same answer. Any of the trig function works. You had any wall, so you could have picked any of the 3. But if only certain walls were provided to you, you have to use that one specific trig function that uses those walls. You have to label it. Okay, questions. The last problem that you have, because I've done enough examples today, the last problem that you guys have in your homework, they give you a triangle where there's only a few numbers on it, and they want you to find everything else in the triangle. They want you to find all the angles that are left, all the walls, so you're going to have to do multiple steps to find those. Where you find every wall, you can do the Pythagorean theorems, you could do these things where you find the missing angles, like this. You can do the trig functions to find the other walls where there are 2 decimal places. So it's kind of mixing everything together. So if you can do this stuff, you're going to be fine on those. If you want an example, I'll do one on the board just so you can see it. But it's up to you guys. You guys want time to work on homework, or do you guys want me to do one more example? Okay. All right. I'm going to put the homework on the board. It is due Friday. It's due Friday. I'm starting the camera here. So. Okay. So here's the homework that's due Friday. It is. I'm going to give you the pre-calc assignment. That would be terrible. All right. It is page 573, and now I'm going to jump around a lot. So there's going to be a few problems here, a few problems there. Okay, so page 573, here it is. We're doing the first ones like I explained earlier, 1 through 6. Those are the ones you just find the fractions. You don't even need a calculator on those. Then you're doing 8 through 10. These are the ones where you have to find a certain wall. 12 through 14, these are you're going to find angles. 28 through 30, these are going to find a certain missing wall again, a certain piece. And the last ones, you have to find all the parts that are missing in the triangle. They don't even have them labeled. You have to find all the walls, all the angles. They usually give you enough information you can start finding them. So there's your problems. It's due Friday. Okay, now if you're going to be going to state wrestling, just make sure that you're getting approval from your parents. You have all my late work and all that stuff turned in. If you turned this up yesterday, I'll make sure that I'm probably going to enter it right now. As you guys sit, hand back some papers here in a second. And if I hand back papers, you can always make corrections on it and turn it back in. You guys know the drill. So I'll hand back some stuff here to you. All right, there you go. Rest time is yours.